G'day ladies and gentlemen, ScottyD here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome into the next installment in our series, From Sprue to Tabletop. Alrighty everyone, so in this installment of From Sprue to Tabletop, where we're taking miniature pretty much from sprue and getting it onto the tabletop, fully painted, fully based, so that you can use these same techniques and these same methods if you wish to do so for getting your armies fully painted and based. We're picking up where we left off with the Assault Intercessor from our base coats video, and we're going to be looking at both the touch-ups and the washes for today in this video. Now, once you have actually done the touch-ups, as I do touch on a few times, it will mean that your miniature is battle ready. So if you just want to have some nice clean base coats, not worry about washes or any other techniques that you can do, feel free to leave the series here and come back when we do basing. If not, keep on watching through. You'll learn about washes and how to actually use them on your miniatures, and you'll be able to see the impact that they actually have on the colors and the tinting that they do on them as well. Now, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed over here at the ATWN as of late. Really appreciate it. I hope you guys are enjoying the multitude of content that we're creating, from the tournament coverage we do, the ITC snapshots, this series From Sprue to Tabletop, as well as we've got some Wargame highlights coming up soon as well, with some personal games from myself that I've been playing as of late. But if you do want to stay up to date with the content, feel free to subscribe so that you're able to be notified when we do release more content here on the ATWN. But ladies and gentlemen, let's jump over to the hobby desk now and let's get into painting these touch-ups on the Assault Intercessor. Alrighty, so now to jump into getting the touch-ups done on the Assault Intercessor. As you can see, we've going back on the 5 different painting stands we've got, using the old paint pots, of course. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through now and we're going to do the touch-ups. Basically what this process is that we grab all the base coat colors, and over time we'll actually go through and we'll find all the different areas where some colors may bleed over into other areas where we don't want them to. So we're actually going to go over and clean those up. And we'll do the same kind of process as we did with the paint sequencing, as we talked about in the base coats video, where we'll go through and do the armor first for the blue, then we'll do all the metallics if those need touching up, then we'll do each color subsequently as we go through, and we'll kind of do each piece on those touch-ups at a time. So it won't necessarily be that we're going to jump through and we do all of the pieces for the blue. We're going to work on the main guy first, getting all the blue done. Then we've got some metal, we've got the flesh with black, and we've got the gold there and the brown as well. So we're going to go through and we're going to do those one at a time like such as well. Now, the brushes we're going to make use of for this stage is we've got the Army Painter Regiment, Character and Detail brushes. Those are going to be the kind of 3 different brushes we're going to make use of. Mainly the Regiment brush is there to actually get the paint from your paint pot. So we're going to start off with good old Cantor Blue. I'm going to give it a good shake, as you should always do, and we're going to get that out onto a wet palette or whatever palette you are using to work on your miniatures. Now, this is what the final kind of step of doing battle ready paint jobs is all about, because once you've got your base coats done, they're ready to go, but they might not look fully clean like you would expect them to be, compared to how you want them to look if you're just wanting to get your miniatures done to a good standard and then placing them onto the battlefield. So we've got this guy here, so we've got the detail brush from Army Painter, and we're just going to look around at all the different areas where we could quite possibly need to work on some touch-ups. And so just very carefully coming around and just making sure that we get these areas nice and clean compared to what they were. And so you're still doing your model rotations as well, making sure that there's nothing kind of being missed or anything by using the different angles as you rotate your models to get these touch-ups done. And so we're just going to work our way around and get all of these touch-ups done. Alright, so now that we've gotten the blue touch-ups done on the Assault Intercessor body, what you might find is that some of the areas that we've done, you actually don't end up needing to touch up that same color around where we've done that touch-up. So you might see we need to do a little bit of metal there, we even still got a little bit of blue just down along here. Then we need to touch up just quickly. And that's now done. So really it's all about going around and getting those colors to be right where you're wanting them to be. Same at the back here. So I think I might need to scrape that off, which we will do so as well. So after we have done that first color base coat, we are going to go through and we're going to work on the rest of the base coats as well, making sure that those colors are all nice and clean and tidy and ready to go for when we are up to the next stage of doing the painting to get this guy from battle ready up to parade ready, as Games Workshop calls it. So which is going to be doing washes, edge highlighting, plasma and such as well, even though you probably want to do some form of plasma before you get to doing the next stages. So we will look at that in the next video. Next video is going to be looking at the plasma effect and how we can achieve something nice and quickly without spending a lot of time in it after we get all of these touch-ups and then the washes done on these guys as well. So we're going to go through, we're going to do the blue on the rest of the models, rest of the parts, then we're going to come back and we're going to start hitting the other colors as well. Alright, so there we have it. We have just finished all of the blue touch-ups that we're needing to do. And so as you do, at the end, you've got excess paint left over. Always grab your largest brush, which for me is my regiment brush at the moment, grab the remaining paint and just pop it back in the paint pot. That way you can get more use out of that paint going forward as well. So the next stage is, obviously we've had to walk around a couple of these pieces with various elements. We've gotten all the blue done on everyone though. There is one piece that we have completely finished that we don't need to do any more touch-ups on, and that is actually the backpack itself. It's all ready to go in my perspective. We'll hit that with some washes a bit later on. Now, we are going to move into working on some of the smaller pieces first, which is going to be working on this guy. We just need a little bit of lead belcher to start off with. So just going to put a small amount into the receptacle, clean off our brush, and then we're just going to go around and clean up both the pipes on the helmet as well as the container that is on his belt. Alright, so that is done. Now, the good thing about doing smaller pieces at smaller intervals is you can actually get through them relatively quickly without having to worry too much about being like, oh, I've got to do all of this color in one spot, all this color in the next spot as well. But by getting the smaller areas done first, it means that by getting them done, you can then move on to the next area and just do the colors that you're wanting to work on that area next, as opposed to then having to do that one color over everything at the same time. Now, different people approach this differently. There are the two different methods where you do the same color across all of the model, or you are doing, if it's in multiple parts, you're doing the same color across multiple areas of the model. So as you can see here, we've got two more colors we need to do. We're going to need to do corn red for the purity seal, and then we're also going to need to do Raka flesh is the other one. So we're just going to smash this out real quick, and that'll make 2 out of the 5 pieces completed. Alrighty, so there we go. We did have to touch up the blue a little bit more next to the parchment as we went over onto the blue again, but that's okay. Everywhere else is done on that piece, ready to go for the washes when we get to it. Now we're going to come to our good friend, the chainsaw arm. So we've got a few more colors that we want to touch on here first, but we're going to flip the shoulder pad up so then we can actually hit the sword itself. We're going to start off with corn red. We do also have the metal that we want to do as well. Alright, so that is the corn red done. In a few other spots we're going to have to work on lead belcher next. Alright, so now that we've gotten that done, the next color we're going to do is the gold. As you can probably tell, it is a bit of detail work to get into some of these spots to tidy it up nicely. But in my personal opinion, it is always worthwhile spending that little bit of time to do it than to not. Alright, next up we've got two more colours that we need to work with, which is going to be Mournfang Brown. And then we have also got Wazdaka Red, which is the colour for the shoulder pad. Which that is now done. And now that that is done, what we're going to do is we are going to grab the chainsaw arm out, flip it around, so we can actually access the shoulder pad. And then we're going to grab out the Wazdaka Red, just pop it down on the wet palette. This is one of the good things about the wet palette, is that you don't necessarily have to put paints back in straight away, compared to the receptacles attached to the wet palette, where you probably should put the metal and the gold back in to their pots, so that they don't dry out and we can, you know, not have massive clumps of paint going in and being you know, hard to remove when we need to clean up the wet palette as well. Alright, so now that is the chainsaw arm done. Then we've got the plasma pistol. And so we're going to do the same colors again. We're going to need to get the metal out, but also we're going to do black to prep the plasma coils for actually getting them ready to go for their video when we look at painting up the plasma coils and teaching a really simple but effective technique on getting the plasma coils done for a beginner level, which is what this series is all about. Alrighty, so that is the plasma pistol now done, ready to go for the plasma effects and such on it as well. With that now done, we come to the last part of this model, that we need to work on the touch-ups for, which is this guy, the main body of the actual assault intercessor himself. And we are, obviously, I've missed a little bit of blue, so I'm actually out of blue on my palette, so we're just going to grab a small amount, pop it down, and just quickly touch that up there. But it also could have been hidden with an edge highlight, so sometimes you might not want to stress too much about those ones because they're right on the edge, and you could get them done with an edge highlight. But we are up to doing the touch-up, so we've got metal that we're going to do, we've got brown, we've got flesh, and we've got black and gold as well. So a large number of colors that we are going to work on the touch-ups for on this guy. So it's just going to be a matter of finding those spots where just that extra little bit of cleanup is needed to get it nice and ready to go to be hit with all of the washes. And with that, we have now completed all of the touch-ups for the assault intercessor. As you can see, he is nice and cleaned up and ready to go for the washes if you want to, or what you can also do at this stage is put him all together and then he's done, ready for the battlefield as your battle ready miniature. Okay, so at this point, ladies and gentlemen, our assault intercessor has got clean base coats, which, as I said at the start of the video and just at the end there, this is what you would consider a battle-ready painted miniature, because all the base coats are done. You don't necessarily need to do washes, you don't necessarily need to do highlights or additional detail. You just have to do the basing for it to be fully finished. So this is kind of what it looks like. It's, you know, nice and clean and crisp. Now, there are different painting styles out there where you can have them look a little bit more rough and tumble, but I personally prefer a much cleaner style of painting. You can use weathering powders or pigments. There's a lot of different techniques out there that you can do to improve your models, and that's what we're going to keep on going on with in this series, because I've got a lot of techniques that I add on after this step, such as washes, edge highlighting, freehand detail work. We're going to do a video on plasma glow as well to show you guys a nice simple technique on how to achieve that with just some dry brushing, so that you can do some plasma effects quite quickly and quite easily on your models as well. But the rest of today's video, we're jumping into washes, and we're going to jump back over the hobby desk and you're going to see how I actually apply washes on my models, how they work in real time, as well as seeing the impact that they actually have on the colors of the miniatures. Alrighty everyone, so now that we have got the base coats nicely touched up, they're all ready to go to receive the washes, to actually add some nice tonality to the miniatures and really bring some life to some of these areas that look quite flat at the moment. So we've got a whole bunch of different washes we're going to work with. And we're going to probably start off with some of the smaller ones to kind of explain the technique. So we'll actually start off with Seraphim Sepia. Now this is kind of a 50-50 mix between Seraphim Sepia and Soft Tone from Army Painter, and we're going to be using it on the Purity Seal here. Now you'll notice that a wash is actually very different, or as Games Workshop calls them, a shade. It's actually very different in terms of its consistency compared to a regular paint. It's more like an acrylic ink. For those of you who may know what acrylic inks are, or watercolors, so your traditional water style paints. They're quite runny. They're meant to bring a lot more tonality, and they have quite a decent amount of transparency. Now, another item I've got is Lamium Medium. because for this color, the effect that I want to get on the actual Purity Seal parchment is I want to grab a 50-50 mix between Lamy and Medium and the Seraphim Sepia wash with the mix between Seraphim Sepia and Soft Tone, because what that is going to allow it to do is that instead of being a massively strong sepia tone over the Rakarth flesh, it'll actually end up being a little bit more muted because it is not as strong. So as you can see, as we're just applying it, you'd apply it like a normal paint, but you'll see it does pull in some areas, and it just means that you're going to have spots where you're going to have some darker spots, you're going to have some lighter spots, and really it's quite a great tool to use to add some depth to a variety of areas, or add some different tones on top of what could be considered quite a flat tone. So we're just working it around really quickly, using the detail brush again because you don't want a large amount of wash on some of these areas. But as you can see, we're already starting to see the effects of it, is that it is toning it towards that sepia tone, but not a massive amount at the same time. And that's pretty much what the washes are going to do. They are going to add some tonality to a lot of the different areas that we're working with. And of course, once we've done a spot, we can grab the wash, pop it back into the wash pot, as we do with the paints, very similar. So sometimes you may go through a lot of wash, other times you may not. It just depends on the area in which you are actually working with. So next wash we're going to do is Reichland Flesh Shade. This is going to be for the actual face. We won't be watering this one down or thinning this one down with Lamy and Medium. So we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to apply it across the face as well. Now, you may see that when we've done this, we've got a little bit of pooling in the mouth there, and sometimes in the eyes as well. You don't necessarily want it to pool as much, so you can just go in with a wet brush and just make sure that it's not pooling massively, but you can already see that by adding that tone, or that wash I should say, to the skin, it does give it a bit of a deeper tone to it, rather than just being the traditional flat face of the rat skin flesh that we were using. And so you can also see when we grab the parchment, you can see that Seraphim Sepia now has got quite a nice tone to it compared to what it was with the Rakarth flesh being a lot softer. So those are the two smaller colours that we've got to work with the Lamy and Medium. Now we're going to come to two of the larger colours in terms of the washes that I use on the Marines, and that's Carroburg Crimson and Nuln Oil. We're going to start off with Carroburg Crimson because we need to do Nuln Oil in various spots where Carroburg Crimson is used first. And the Carroburg Crimson actually gets used on the weapons, the Purity Seals, and the eyes. So once again, just grab out a large amount using our regiment brush, and we're still going to use our detail brush to get this done, but it is going to take a bit of time in comparison to what the other two have just taken. So we're going to kick right on in to getting this done. I'm going to start off with the plasma pistol first. We'll do the plasma pistol, then the chainsword, and then we'll do the Purity Seal on it, and the eyes on the helmet as well. so with the red wash done of the Caribou Crimson, we are going to grab it and pop the remaining amount of the shade back into the pot, as I forget my actual phrasing there, ladies and gentlemen. So now we've got that done, I can actually show you on some larger pieces the actual effect that that Caribou Crimson has. And you can see on the plasma pistol, it is actually significantly darkened in terms of the corn red that we did for the base coat. And so now we're going to go around and we're going to use Nuln Oil on all of the metal and all of the gold to do pretty much the exact same effect. So we're actually going to use a significant amount of Nuln Oil. So we're going to need to grab out a couple of brushes worth and just pop them down. Now, I will note these are the older Games Workshop shades, the ones that are no longer in production for the formula. So if you are seeing different results with the same colors, it could be likely because of the newer formula for both all of these shades, actually, for Nuln Oil, Caribou Crimson, Reikland Flesh Shade, and Seraphim Sepia. So just bear that in mind if you are looking to grab these exact shades from Games Workshop. Alternatively, you could look to, say, Army Painter using some of their tones, or Vallejo and using their washes as well, or you've also got AK Interactive, I believe, have also got a range of washes within their paint line. Alrighty, so there you have it. That is all of the washes actually complete on our Assault Intercessor. Now we're just going to grab the remaining Nuln Oil, pop it back in the pot. We did have to get some more out to finish this guy off, but with that being said, with this guy fully completed now, you can see that some of those golds and the metals are definitely toned down. The skin has got some nice depth to it. If you have a look at the red and the metals, whilst they are still drying, yes, the red looks great with the darker metal on there as well. And we've just done the chainsword arm, and you can see the nice contrast between the darker red, the darker golds, the brown that we haven't really done anything to, as well as the brighter red as well, to really mean that this is going to pop out. We're going to throw the miniature together. In a little bit, we're going to leave the washes to dry, and then we're going to show you what it looks like with all of the washes completed as well. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so that is it for this installment of From Sprue to Tabletop here on the ATWN. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope you're enjoying this series. It's actually really fun to kind of document how I do my painting process, not just for my Marines. We'll eventually get to my Necrons. We'll also look at Slap Chop and share some of my thoughts around that process, as well as a few of other techniques such as Zenithal base coating, or priming as you might call it, and such things like metallic tinting, and a lot of different things that you might not think of that you might want to learn or might want to pick up. So it's going to kind of be a catch-all for a lot of different painting techniques, from your beginner style stuff to advancing a little bit as well. So it's going to be a really great series to keep an eye on, even if you're already established in the hobby and you're wanting to excel and develop your painting skills a bit further. But ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy this video and you want to catch any more content that we release here on the ATWN, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit it with a like, and if you have any feedback for this one, we did include a few new video elements in this video as well. So if you have any feedback on those, or just the way that we do these videos in general, feel free to let me know down in the comments. I'd really appreciate the feedback. I want to make this series as educational and well presented as possible for you guys. And if you do have any questions that you don't want to ask here on YouTube, down in the comment section, feel free to jump over to the ATWN Twitch channel, where you can find me live on Monday and Friday nights, where I do commission painting as well as my own hobbying on those times. We also do live tournament coverage on the weekends from time to time, from events across the Australian southeastern seaboard, as well as a few other things like the Australian ITC South Pacific snapshots and things like that as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.